Apologies for the wet hair. I've got ME myself and I only had energy for a shower and to do this video, not to dry it. So apologies. Okay, so I've made it clear from the start, this petition is for anyone, irrespective of what illness you have, to report harms if you've been told to take part in non-pharmaceutical treatments. With ME/CFS specifically, that is graded exercise therapy and cognitive behavioural therapy. There are a lot of reasons behind that, and over time I'll go into it in a very simple way on these updates because you need to understand what's happening with the ME/CFS patient community. So, as part of this petition, I emailed Vicky Foxcroft on the 24th of October and I said, the NICE guidelines in terms of ME/CFS are going to be published soon, but I don't have high hopes of anything changing. Can you please ask these questions, or can you support me with this issue in Parliament? She emailed back a couple of days later and said, yep, I've now tabled these questions to ask in Parliament. And they were tabled, so evidence of that. Great, absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Vicky. The response has been published and the Conservative Party have said there is no plan to have a mechanism to report harms because NICE have said they will not recommend graded exercise therapy to ME/CFS patients. However, if patients do experience problems with their treatment, whatever that may be, you can report harms to your NHS Trust, to PALS, to your CCG, etc, etc. What I would like to make clear to that politician is that's what patients have been doing for well over a decade. Nothing's changed. We're still being harmed on a daily basis. These reported harms are not taken seriously. And since the NICE guidelines were updated on the 29th of October, there is growing evidence that every single CFS clinic in the UK is continuing to recommend exercise-based therapies for patients. They're simply calling it a different name, which is exactly what I warned Vicky Foxcroft about before the guidelines were published. This is why we need this reporting mechanism, because patients don't have anywhere to report harms. So I would encourage anyone, whether you've got ME, whether you've never heard of it, please put yourself in an ME/CFS patient's position. You're told by a doctor you trust or a member of staff in a CFS clinic that you trust has got your best interests at heart, that when they tell you to increase your activity, it won't harm you. Over the last decade plus, patients have ended up house or bedbound for years, if not decades, simply because at a very basic level, ME/CFS patients are intolerant to increased activity. A call to exercise yesterday. It's not always exercise. It's things like, have I got energy to clean my teeth today? Can I get dressed today? And yet they want us to go for a walk. At the moment, long COVID patients are experiencing exactly the same non-pharmaceutical treatments. They're being told to do graded exercise therapy, rebranded, and cognitive behavioural therapy. The reason cognitive behavioural therapy is harmful is because the specific to ME version of CBT encourages patients to ignore their symptoms, whereas anyone that's got ME, any ME charity, any ME scientist tells you, pay very close attention to your symptoms because it will indicate when you are starting to crash. Crash means run out of energy, deteriorate. CBT, but the ME version, tells patients they have false sickness beliefs, that there's not actually anything wrong, that you've got some kind of psychological issue, it's psychosomatic, there's nothing wrong with you, just get on with whatever you want to do, which is very harmful. So not only are we being told to do graded exercise therapy under a different name now, but we're also being told to push through because we're not really sick. But as I said a minute ago, we are basically at a very, very, very basic level intolerant to exercise or increased activity. So on what planet does it make sense to recommend patients increase their activity? It doesn't. There is a scientific consensus now internationally that increased activity should not be recommended to ME/CFS patients. And while NICE have now said don't recommend that to patients, that's our recommendation, they've also said clinicians do not have to abide by their guideline, but they have to be prepared to justify their clinical decision in front of the GMC. By that point, a patient has been harmed. This is why we need a petition. We need a petition so that government starts taking this seriously. And another thing you have to be aware of, graded exercise therapy as a recommendation for ME/CFS came about from a research study that was part funded by the DWP. That research study has now been called bad research. The only reason they encourage patients to increase their activity is to get them back to work and to lower the welfare bill. So is it any surprise that Conservatives are now saying, no, we're not going to let patients report harms? Because the sub-narrative to that is because that would be acknowledging that this could potentially harm them. We need this petition to be seen by as many people as possible, signed by as many people as possible. And I personally have donated so that more people see it. If any of you are in the position to do that, I'd be very grateful, because we need a lot of people to sign this petition. But be aware, this petition is just a small part of my campaign to get this done. But we need the patient voices and wider people who understand that non-pharmaceutical treatments can harm patients. We all need to get together and push this through, because it won't just benefit ME/CFS patients. I've seen that Ehlers-Danlos syndrome patients have signed this because they've been harmed by overworking their joints and all that kind of stuff through exercise. Exercise is not a cure-all for every disease. Please do sign today. Share it every single place that you can think of. Email, social media, just talking in the pub if you're venturing into pubs at the moment. We need as many people as possible to sign this. Thank you very much.